Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is just going to be a video where I give you a little bit of my feedback about the Obi Wan series. And what I found in it is the problem with woke culture. And what happens is a lot of the time when we view something, we think, oh man, not again. It's like, it's that feeling, oh no, not again. And really it is, where you get that woke agenda being pushed on you. For example, women are stronger than men. Women can do anything a man can do. Black characters are always perfect and they can never do anything wrong. That's another trope that's in the modern woke uh, movie creation, video creation, content creation, whatever it is. It's all these kind of things that just don't seem real. Um, so when I watched the new Obi Wan series, one of the key characters, and I'd say actually it's more about this key character than it is about Obi Wan, is Rhea, and Rhea is like the typical perfect black antagonist. I guess she's an antagonist. She's been she was picked up from the gutter, and yet she's the most powerful force wielding of these people, these inquisitors, I guess they're called, or and it kind of rings untrue. And that's one of the problems with woke things, because a lot of the time we get characters like Rey in the original series, like the movies, the most recent series, I should say, where she didn't have to train. She just knew everything. She could do anything. She could swim, even though she lived on a desert planet all her life. She could do anything and everything. She could even pilot the Millennium Falcon better than anyone else, even though it was the first time for her to be on the Millennium Falcon. Things like that. It just didn't seem very true. Well, Rhea is the same thing. She didn't get any training based on what they're saying in the story. She's just this person that had the Force within her. Like there's people with the Force, but they need training on how to use it. She didn't need that. And she's one of those people that's always 2 steps ahead. Even when she messes up, oh, I meant to mess up. It's like they can't let her just make a mistake. She has to be like, oh, I actually planned that. It just doesn't ring true. It's okay for people to make mistakes. It's okay. So what ends up happening is people, like, there's backlash, and people will say, well, I don't like this character, and it's not that because she's black, and that's what people will say. Oh, it's because you don't like her because she's a strong black woman, and that's not why people dislike her. It's because they don't find that she's a realistic character, that one that you can appreciate. And the thing is, like, usually with antagonists, we don't necessarily appreciate them anyways. They're kind of on the short end of the stick because they're the bad guy. But we can still appreciate them. For example, the Joker. Joker is a really great antagonist. He's like one that people actually love. They love that character because he's psychotic, but he has like some kind of coolness to him. Like he does things that are a little bit extreme, and he has his own moral compass that we can sort of relate to in a weird way. So with Rhea, we don't really get that. We don't really get her personality. We just get that she's a grumpy, angry person. I don't know. That's really the whole thing. Like, and she seems to do things where she's constantly fighting against the very people that she's working with, and that makes her seem very annoying more than like something that's appealing. Like the whole time she's a character where the other Inquisitors are basically like, hey, kind of, why are you chopping off people's hands randomly? Or why are you attacking these people? We have to crack down, but we're not insane. And it makes them seem like reasonable people, and her just is this loose cannon. It just doesn't make her appealing. And you gotta have like a antagonist that makes sense. what makes an antagonist a really strong bad guy is the fact that they are somebody that you can say, wow, this guy is really, really intense, and there's no way the superhero can beat them. They're 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 pretty awesome, and they have to go through their own little arc as well. Even though they're an antagonist, they go through this kind of arc where you can see that they're a fully fleshed out character. They're just not just a bad guy because they're bad. And that's what it seems with Rhea. She's just a bad character because she's bad. Whereas a lot of antagonists, they go through the opposite of a hero's journey. They go through this villain's journey where they have motivations for why they do the things that they do. And when you have that, you can sort of understand. You might not agree with where they end up, but you can understand why they are there. So that's one of the problems with woke culture, is that they can't show these female or black or people of minority color, whatever, as being flawed. And sometimes it's the flaws that actually make them a cool character. And I'll give you a really good example of this. One of my favorite Star Wars characters is a black man. In the Empire Strikes Back, we have Lando Calrissian, and he's a good guy, but he's got some darkness to him. And the reason I say that is he betrays the main characters. He betrays Han Solo. He betrays them all. But you understand him. He is flawed. Because he's like this playboy kind of guy was a gambler, and he won himself a town. And now he has this weird responsibility where he has to act like, somebody that has to take care of this town. And he makes still bad decisions. Like you would expect somebody that is given all this responsibility that really hasn't learned how to handle that responsibility. But he's an appealing character. You can like him. He's charismatic. He's he's fun. And he's one of those people that you don't know if you can trust him or what his situation is. So, and that makes him more interesting because you're not sure 100% where he is. But yet he redeems himself, and he shows that he's actually a really good guy. So it's one of those characters that you can really, he's just not this one-dimensional character. He's got multi-layers to him, and you can really appreciate it because that character is fully developed. And the problem is with the woke kind of ideology, because it really doesn't allow for that development, because you can't have flaws, because that kind of goes against the whole ideology. Only people that can be flawed are the white males. They're 100% flawed. But so what ends up happening is you get these characters that are very one-dimensional, and just people can't relate to them, and they just don't like them. If woke culture was really about kind of promoting more diversity and all this kind of stuff, then the way that they're doing is going to totally backfire. As I said, there are more diverse characters that have been pretty cool, like Lando Calrissian. Also, if you look at Star Wars, it is a diverse situation. It is like we're looking at the universe, it's its own galaxy far, far away, where there's a whole bunch of characters, not just humans, that are appealing. Like if you look at, for example, C-3PO and R2-D2, one of the criticisms I think that George Lucas had when he first developed the original Star Wars was the fact that he put so much emphasis on C-3PO and R2-D2. People thought, "Oh, what are you doing?" They're like, it's like this little box guy and like a robot-y guy. Like nobody's gonna relate to those characters, but yet we can relate to those characters, even though they're not human. we can relate to them because, you can sort of understand they are multi-dimensional characters. Like C-3PO, he comes across as this, kind of nerdy guy, I guess would be the way to relate to him. He has a personality in his own way, and he knows it all, but at the same time, he's one of those knows it all, but knows nothing. And there's sort of an appeal there because he makes mistakes, and that's what kind of makes him interesting. Um, and he can be scared. He can be like, he's not always 100% brave. He's flawed, and that's the kind of characters that really appeal to people because you can kind of relate. We're not all perfect. We have our flaws. So if you want to make your characters more interesting and more appealing to people, don't just say that they're a great character. Like with Rhea, one of the things that they do is like they make her the bestest, but there's no reason for it. It's just like she's the bestest. You got to believe she's the bestest, but it doesn't ring true, and that's the problem with these modern characters, and it just really doesn't appeal to people. I think another big problem with the Kenobi show is the fact that it's not the Kenobi show. It's like Obi Wan is playing second fiddle in his own show. He's like really not the main character. Rhea is the main character, and Obi Wan is just there to be like almost like her counter, her kind of motivation, something to chase after for her. And will she catch him? It's like, it's like that seems to be more of the story than it is about Obi Wan and his journey. And Obi Wan, he's somehow weak. He like, if you look at episode 1, which is the very first trilogy of where they kind of redid the Star Wars episodes, like I guess they're called the prequels. Obi-Wan is really badass. He's like spinning his lightsaber. He's doing all these things to, where he's defending against a whole bunch of stormtroopers. Like it seems like no number of stormtroopers could take him down. He's just like that impressive. He can hold his breath for like hours, it seems. He can do all these crazy things. He is very overpowered. And one of the things that when they end the 3 movies, the original prequels, they say Yoda says to him that you got to go off and train so you can defend Skywalker in the future. And so you would think Obi-Wan should be even more overpowered, but we find this kind of a shell of a man. He's just so weak. He barely can use the Force anymore. He doesn't really use his lightsaber, and when he does, it looks really awkward. So we find that the character is not what he used to be, and what it kind of it discourages people because we want to. A lot of fans, like Obi-Wan is one of those beloved characters, and a lot of fans were kind of hoping that this would be kind of, we can get to see Obi-Wan back in his true form, and maybe even better in his true form, and see what he's been doing all these years between the end of the prequels and A New Hope, that kind of time period, and his story, because there's something that he must have been doing, and I think that it's so far been a missed opportunity. There's a lot of things that just don't make any sense. You kind of feel like, wow. There's one scene that really bothered me in the Obi-Wan series, and this is I should have said spoilers. Too late. I meant spoilers earlier. But there is this one scene where he is with Leia, and Leia keeps on talking for him. It's like she's like 10 years old, but she's talking for him. And there's this weird creature guy, and he offers them a lift on this back of the truck kind of thing. And all of a sudden they stop, and a bunch of stormtroopers get onto this truck thing, and they are saying that they're looking for a Jedi. Now, this is the future. Well, this is future technology we expect, right? They can fly around. They can do a whole bunch of things. Well, you would think that they would have an image Obi Wan is like super famous. Like he was the general of the of the army at one point. He was like kind of big guy in the whole society, and they don't know who they're looking for in terms of what he looks like. Like seems kind of weird, right? Like they should be like, oh, you're Obi Wan, we should shoot you. It shouldn't even been like they would could sit and have a conversation with him. It didn't make any sense, and it was just felt really kind of weird. And Obi-Wan was kind of being a goof, like he was almost trying to give up his identity to them. And it was just, and it was Leia who was kind of trying to keep him in check. It was like, he was not the adult in the room. It just felt really weird, and it was a like very painful scene to watch, actually. And that's kind of been the problem with the whole Obi-Wan series. He is not in his full form, and he doesn't even seem like, even in his worst form, that he would be. It's just like this guy is not functioning at a reasonable level. So it's very disappointing to see this kind of thing. Now, I have to say that I felt like the third episode, or is it the fourth, whatever the last episode was a bit better. I would say a bit. I feel like they gave Obi-Wan a little bit of the Force powers. He did a couple cool things. So I felt like it was kind of trying to redeem itself. They also gave Rey a bit more of like more than one emotion. Before, she was just angry all the time. Now she seems a little bit more conniving, or a little bit more like she has another personality, like multiple traits to her personality. But it has been a bit of a mess. So I'd be curious, what do you think about the Obi-Wan show? Are you even watching it? That's probably the big question. And this has been my quick review of both woke culture and the Obi-Wan show, and what I see flawed in it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Bye.